What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another detailed gun analysis using Excel. In today's video, we're going to be going over the difference between the M4 and the XM4 from Black Ops Cold War. And just in case you didn't know, the stats from Black Ops Cold War did not directly translate over to Warzone, even on the same gun. And what I mean by that is that the XM4 that you're used to in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer is going to feel a lot different in Warzone because the guns are very different. It's almost like Activision said, you know what, Treyarch, you don't really know how to make video games. We're going to take your gun, what it looks like, what it feels like and everything, but we're going to change the stats. We're going to change the recoil pattern. We're going to change the time to kill. We're going to change everything except for what the gun looks like and what attachments you can put on it, which is kind of frustrating because if you're, for those of us that are playing Black Ops Cold War, if you like a gun in multiplayer and you're like, hey, this is going to be good in Warzone, that may not be the case because the gun is going to be completely different. So we're also going to go over what changed between the XM4 in Black Ops Cold War and the XM4 in Warzone. If you guys learned something from this video, could you please give it a like? And if you're not subscribed to my channel and you want to find your way back to my channel, I suggest you do that with notifications on. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so this is the spreadsheet here. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of show you guys how I gathered this data because it's a lot harder to do in Warzone than it was with Black Ops Cold War. In Black Ops Cold War, you can just go to the gunsmith and see all the stats there. And you also were able to do private matches, so you could kind of like go against yourself in split screen and get the stats that way. If for this video, I had to boot up Warzone and then go down to practice mode and then do Battle Royale practice, and I had to basically use this gun against bots, trying to position bots at a certain range and then shoot at them and then figure out what the damage was. This was obviously very difficult to do. It took a lot of time to do, but I plan on doing this for every gun despite how hard it may be. I think that Activision kind of did this on purpose to encourage people not to focus on statistics and like the feel of guns, increasing like our play time, I guess you could say, especially with how long it takes guns to level up. To me, this is just another money grab for them to do this. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what it feels like, especially because all the guns are different than in Black Ops Cold War than they are in Warzone. But anyway, so for damage, what I did was I got into a lobby, positioned a bot about however many meters away that I wanted them to, and then I shot them, and then in the stats bar there is a damage column. I basically took the difference on what the damage was and got it that way. For effective damage range, that's just where the damage... Let me zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. The effective damage range, you see is 20 to 25 meters. Basically, that's kind of where the first bullet is going to drop off and decrease the damage. In this case, it goes from 32 to 28. So for aim down sight speed, firing rate, and reload quickness, I had to record a video using OBS, then go to a video editor and go frame by frame to see, here you see the aim down sight speed is about 26, 30 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds. And then here you see then what I did from then is I would let it shoot, see how long it took to empty the clip, go frame by frame to get the exact number, and then I would cross multiply. Yeah, if you remember algebra from high school, I cross multiplied to be able to convert that to rounds per minute. And then for the reload speed, something that's pretty important that a lot of people don't know about here is that if you actually, let me go frame by frame, you start your reload, and then as soon as you see where it says 22 on your magazine, as soon as it clicks to 30 or full, that's when you can stop reloading, and you can sprint forward to cancel the rest of that animation. So this is the time I used, but the full animation is about 2.6 seconds, which is normal for just about all of the assault rifles. Alright, so let's get into the good stuff. How good are these guns actually? So this is the XM4 in Warzone. Damage is 32, pretty high for an assault rifle. Then it drops to 28 at about 25 meters. The shots to kill is going to be 8 and then 9. Time to kill is a little over a second and then 1.12 at a larger distance. The fire rate was 750 rounds per minute. The aim down sight speed is 400 milliseconds. And the reload quickness, with just not including the entire animation, is 1.33 seconds. With the entire animation, it's going to be about 1.6 seconds. If we scroll over here, this is the recoil pattern. I'll tell you right now, you'll see the other recoil pattern for Black Ops Cold War, but it is different. It looks more like the recoil pattern from the M4 in Warzone. And then going down here to the time to kill, let me zoom in real quick. This is the chart, what it looks like. It's kind of plain without other assault rifles to compare it to. I can tell you right now that it's a pretty good gun. And another thing to notice is that there's a 13% increase to time to kill at 20 meters. Moving on to the XM4 XM4 comparison from Black Ops Cold War to Warzone. So if you guys have not seen this video already, I did a full analysis on all the assault rifles in Black Ops Cold War. I'll link it above me. So this is kind of where I'm getting all the stats from. A lot easier in Black Ops Cold War. You go into the gunsmith, see all the stats there, and then you go to a private match with yourself and test out the gun. So the difference between XM4 in Black Ops Cold War to the XM4 in Warzone is in Warzone you get a slight damage buff. The effective damage range is much worse, going from 45 meters to about 20 meters. The firing rate is slightly better, going from 722 rounds per minute to 750. I do not have the bullet velocity stats for Warzone yet. I'm still trying to figure out like a good way to do it quickly, kind of effectively. I think one of the worst things about trying to pull these stats is that whenever I jump in to the Warzone, bot lobby, I have to go do bounties to go get a loadout, and then I can start testing out the gun. So it's a long process. But anyway, the aim down sight speed is slightly increased. Something to note about the bullet velocity real quick is I do expect this to be slightly higher than a Black Ops Cold War, because this is very low bullet velocity compared to the other assault rifles in Warzone already. Magazine capacity is 30. This is a stat from Black Ops Cold War. It's probably likely 1.3 if you exclude like the entire animation like I showed you before. Scrolling down, let me zoom out. These are the recoil patterns. It's the XM4 in Black Ops Cold War on the right and the XM4 from Warzone on the left. They're similar, but they're still very different. They're going to be a very different feel, especially if you're used to using this gun in Black Ops Cold War. This is much easier to control, in my opinion, because this is more vertical, and then this is more of a cluster on what I would say your second kill most of the time. Whereas right here, there's a slight, diagonal verticality, which is going to be an issue at range. And then there's this kind of not really a strange horizontal, not really a cluster. I think that it was much easier to control in Black Ops Cold War. And then if you look at the time to kill versus distance for both of these guns, I think the gun got a little bit better in Warzone as far as time to kill goes. But like I said, there's not like a huge change here. This big square here is just because of the damage range is different. But with attachments, honestly, you could just assume that both of these are going to be two straight lines if you add those damage range attachments to these guns. So this is how the XM4 is different from Black Ops Cold War to Warzone. Now looking at the M4. Getting the stats for this gun, I did do the same thing as I did with the XM4 in Warzone, going into a private lobby against bots and getting the stats that way. Something a little surprising, this gun's pretty weak. It's a lot weaker than I thought. Only 28 damage. And that drops to 22 after only 25 meters. So that hurts this gun a lot. We're talking 9 shots to kill to 12 shots to kill. But because the fire rate is so fast at 833 rounds per minute, it's less than a second time to kill at close range, and then barely over a second at longer ranges. So, like I said, the stats I got: 28 damage, 25 effective damage rate, 833 rounds per minute, aim down sight speed of 300 milliseconds, magazine standard 30, reload 1.23, probably around 2.6 if you do the entire animation. Looking at the recoil pattern, this is kind of typical for Modern Warfare Warzone guns, is to kind of go straight up and then diagonal. It's just kind of a typical pattern for Modern Warfare in general, so this is kind of what I expected. This is fairly easy controlling your first kill, and then it gets a little wonky up here. That's why I think it's the whatever foregrip does the recoil stabilization a lot of people use. This is why, because you're going to get less bounce and less of a curve at the end. Looking at the time to kill, you have a 23% increase to time to kill at 25 meters. That is significant, and that's because it takes 3 extra shots instead of what I normally see is like just 1 extra shot. This is a huge damage drop outside of 25 meters, which is kind of close range for an assault rifle. Doing a stats comparison between these two guns, the M4 from Warzone is actually better in every single category except for damage, and it is a lot worse than damage, I must say, especially at range. Looking at the two recoil patterns, I think the M4 has a slight edge just because of this verticality here. And then this is more of kind of a typical cluster. It's not directly straight to the right, which is a little bit easier to control on, I would say, your second kill. So to me, let me zoom in a little bit just so you guys can see it a little bit better. To me, the M4 wins in the recoil pattern as well. As far as the time to kill graph goes, another surprise for me. I truly expected every single Black Ops Cold War weapon to be better than the Modern Warfare weapon counterpart. I'm glad that this is not the case. Not because I don't like Black Ops Cold War, because honestly, it's a decent game, but because I want to know where's the end. You know, if they keep adding in games, and this is the formula that they're going to use for Call of Duty, every time they add in a game, the time to kill gets better and better. Well, where does it end? You know, you can only go up this graph so much. Quick note on that mention is that the values, the y-axis is in inverse order. So as you go up the graph, you get a lower time to kill. I did this just so it's a lot easier to see which gun is better. You don't have to think in a negative stance. You just say whatever gun is on top is the gun that's better. I did that for all the other graphs as well if you were kind of confused on why it went down instead of up as the damage increased. But anyway, the M4 from Warzone, in my opinion, is better than the XM4 from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Like I said, this is quite a surprise to me, but I will be providing a gunsmith loadout for both of these guns right now. So this is the XM4 class that I was using for most of yesterday on the new map in the Resurgence game mode. I actually got 4 wins with this gun, so it was pretty good despite, you know, what we've seen before with it being slightly worse than the M4 in my opinion. But I think it's going to come down to personal preference, to be honest. So if we go open the gunsmith, I use the agency suppressor. To me, this is the best suppressor, best muzzle attachment. This is kind of like the monolithic suppressor in Black Ops Cold War. The only issue that I don't like about this suppressor compared to the guns in Warzone is that your effective damage range goes down and your bullet velocity goes down, which are two very important stats whenever it comes to Warzone and what you want out of your guns. Secondly, I use the 3.5-inch reinforced heavy barrel to get an effective damage range and bullet velocity boost that we lost by adding on a suppressor. I then use the fuel agent grip. This is probably the most common grip in Black Ops Cold War. It improves your vertical recoil control and your horizontal recoil control. 60 rounds fast mags. I think that the aim down sight speed with this gun is fast enough to be able to use this, and it seems like I'm constantly reloading, especially in the new Resurgence map. I might change this to just standard 60 so that I don't get as bad of an aim down sight speed, but you know, we'll see. It'll just kind of be trial and error at that point. And then as far as the grip, I use the aim down sights and flinch resistance. You have to remember that there is flinch resistance, or flinch, in Warzone. There was not flinch in Black Ops Cold War. I think this makes more sense on why they had these grips here with flinch resistance, because there is 0 flinch in Black Ops Cold War, but there is quite a lot of flinch in Warzone. So this is going to be my XM4 class, my go-to if I want to use this gun. I do enjoy this gun, but like I said, I just prefer the M4, but I am in love with the M4 in Warzone. And this is the class I use. These are all the perks and everything you see down here. Same as the class before. I pretty much keep it standard: EOD, Ghost, Battle Hardened, Semtex, and Flashbang. As far as the gunsmith, everybody's favorite monolithic suppressor. Can't beat it. Who gets sound suppression and damage range out of a suppressor ever? M16 stock Grenadier barrel. It's the longest barrel. You get the most damage range, the most bullet velocity, and the most recoil and control. To me, the three most important stats whenever it comes to Warzone. Commando foregrip. This is the foregrip I was talking about earlier. It's going to decrease the side-to-side bounce on your recoil pattern and decrease the amount that it's going to sway to the right at the end of the magazine. 60-round mags. Can't beat them. And rubberized grip tape for additional recoil control. Those are the two loadouts for the XM4 and the M4. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Again, a reminder, if you're not subscribed to my channel already and you'll make your way back to it, now is a good chance to do so. And as always, I hope you guys are enjoying Warzone, and I hope you have a great day.